The massive station floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of metal and light. It was called Concordia Prime, and it was the home of the Galactic Council. Ships from 100 different worlds came and went from its docking bays. Some looked like silverfish, others like floating crystals, and some defied any description at all. But today, everyone was watching for one particular ship. The human ship was small compared to the others. It was painted white with a blue emblem of Earth on its side. When it docked, only one person stepped out. Ambassador Marcus Thorne walked through the corridors of the station with steady steps. He was not a tall man, not particularly strong-looking either. His hair was starting to turn gray at the temples, and his face had the kind of lines that come from too many years of hard decisions. He wore a simple black suit that looked plain next to the elaborate robes and armor of the other diplomats passing by. The aliens stared at him. Some whispered to each other. The humans were new to the galaxy, barely 200 years since they had invented faster-than-light travel. Most species took thousands of years to reach this point. The fact that humanity was already asking for full council membership made many uncomfortable. Marcus ignored the stares. He had been a soldier once long ago. Stares did not bother him. The council chamber was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high it disappeared into artificial clouds. 47 different species had representatives sitting in a giant circle. At the center was a raised platform where speakers could address the entire assembly. Marcus walked to the platform. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. At the highest seat sat the elder species. The Keltari looked like massive bears covered in golden fur, their eyes sharp and intelligent. The Xinthians were beings of pure energy contained in crystal bodies that hummed with power. And the Vreth were tall, thin creatures with too many joints in their arms and legs, their skin the color of deep space. It was High Counselor Vrethkar who spoke first. His voice came out like wind through a cave. Human. You stand before the Galactic Council to request full membership for your species. This is highly irregular. Your kind has barely left your home system. Marcus smiled politely. With respect, Counselor, humanity now has colonies on 47 worlds. We have trade agreements with 16 species. We have contributed to medical research, shared our art and culture, and have never once initiated conflict with another species. You have also, Vrethkar continued, tripled your military fleet in the last 50 years. You build warships faster than any species in recorded history. We build ships to protect ourselves, Marcus replied calmly. Surely the Council understands that a species must be able to defend itself. A younger counselor, a bird-like creature called a plenari, spoke up. The humans have been good neighbors to us. They helped us rebuild after the meteor strike on Plenar the 3. They asked for nothing in return. Charity is easy when you want something, Vrethkar said coldly. We have seen ambitious species before. They smile and help and pretend to be friends. Then when they have power, they take what they want. Marcus kept his expression neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Something old and tired. Humanity does not seek to take anything, Counselor. We seek only to be treated as equals. To have a voice in the decisions that affect all species in the galaxy. Equals, Vrethkar repeated. The word dripped with contempt. You are children playing with technology you barely understand. The Vreth civilization is 400,000 years old. The Keltari have seen the birth and death of stars. What have humans accomplished? You still fight wars among yourselves. You pollute your own world. You are violent, short-lived, and reckless. Other elder species murmured in agreement. But Marcus noticed that many of the younger species looked uncomfortable. The Plenari, the Torgash, the Nemi, they all knew that humanity had helped them at one point or another. Marcus took a deep breath. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire chamber. You are right, Counselor. Humanity is young. We have made mistakes. We have fought wars and damaged our world. But we have also learned from those mistakes. We have built peace among ourselves. We have looked at our flaws and worked to be better. Can the elder species say the same? The chamber went dead silent. We do not ask to lead the council, Marcus continued. We do not demand special treatment. We ask only for the same chance that was given to every other species in this room. Judge us by our actions, not by our age. Judge us by what we do, not by what you fear we might do. For a moment, Marcus thought he saw something like respect in a few faces, but Vrethkar's expression remained cold. The council will deliberate, Vrethkar announced. Human ambassador, you will wait for our decision. We will call you when we are ready. Marcus bowed slightly and left the platform. As he walked back through the corridors, he felt eyes on him again. This time there was more than curiosity in those stares. There was calculation. There was suspicion, and from the direction of the elder species there was something darker. He had expected this. Humanity had prepared for this. Marcus was in his quarters reviewing diplomatic reports when the message came. It appeared on his datapad in formal script. Ambassador Thorne, your presence is requested for a private discussion regarding humanity's application. Please come to Chamber 7 Alpha in the restricted diplomatic section. This is a matter of utmost importance and confidentiality. The message was signed by High Counselor Vrethkar himself. Marcus stared at the message for a long moment. Chamber 7 Alpha was in the deep levels of the station, far from public areas. It was a room designed for sensitive negotiations, which meant it would be shielded from all surveillance and recording devices. A private meeting with the most powerful members of the elder species, in a room where no one could see or hear what happened. Marcus smiled. It was not a happy smile. He stood up and straightened his suit. He looked at himself in the mirror. A middle-aged man with tired eyes looked back at him. Just a diplomat. Just a human trying to do his job. Marcus touched a spot behind his ear. For just a second, his reflection's eyes turned completely black before returning to normal. All right, he said softly to his reflection. Let's see what they want. He walked out of his quarters and made his way to the restricted levels. The corridors became darker and quieter as he descended. He passed security checkpoints where guards watched him with alien eyes. None of them stopped him. He had been invited, after all. When he reached Chamber 7 Alpha, the door slid open automatically. Marcus stepped inside. The door closed behind him with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. 5 figures stood waiting for him in the dim light. High Counselor Vrethkar stood in the center. Beside him were representatives from the Keltari and Zynthian empires, and 2 other elder species Marcus recognized from the council. None of them looked friendly. Thank you for coming, Ambassador, Vrethkar said. His voice was different now. The formal politeness was gone. We need to have an honest conversation about humanity's future in the galaxy. Marcus looked at each of them in turn. He saw it in their eyes, in their posture. He had seen it before, in 1,000 different situations across 200 years. He knew exactly what kind of conversation this was going to be. The chamber was cold. Marcus could feel it even through his suit. The walls were made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. There were no windows, no decorations, nothing except the 5 aliens standing between him and the door. Please, sit, Vrethkar said, gesturing to a chair in the center of the room. Marcus remained standing. I prefer to stand, thank you. The Kelthari representative, a massive creature named Gormath, growled deep in his throat. The counselor offered you a seat, human. You should accept. I appreciate the offer, Marcus said calmly, but I'm comfortable where I am. Vrethkar's mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile on his species. Very well. Let us speak plainly then. Humanity will never be granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Marcus showed no surprise. May I ask why you brought me here to tell me this? You could have simply voted no in the council chamber. Because, Vrethkar stepped closer, we want to make sure you understand the situation completely. Humanity is a disease. You spread too fast. You adapt too quickly. You take risks that would destroy any sensible species. In 400,000 years, the Vreth have learned patience, learned caution. You humans learn nothing. You charge forward like children playing with fire. That sounds like a difference in philosophy, Marcus said. Not a reason to deny us membership. The Zynthian representative spoke, its voice like bells chiming. You do not understand your place, human. The elder species maintain order in the galaxy. We have kept peace for millennia. We decide who rises and who remains where they are. This is how it has always been. Marcus tilted his head slightly. So it's about power. You're afraid humanity might challenge your authority. Gormath slammed a massive paw on the ground. Afraid we fear nothing from your kind. Then why are we having this conversation? Marcus asked. If humanity is so insignificant, why not just ignore us? Vrethkar's eyes narrowed. Because ignoring a problem does not make it disappear. We have decided that humanity needs to learn humility, needs to understand that there are consequences for ambition. Marcus felt the temperature in the room drop another degree, not from the air conditioning. From understanding. You're going to attack me, he said quietly. It was not a question. Attack is such an ugly word, Vrethkar said. We are going to teach you a lesson. This room is shielded. No surveillance, no recordings. When you return to your quarters, you will be bruised and broken. You will tell your superiors that you were attacked by unknown assailants, and humanity will learn that the galaxy is not a safe place for those who reach too high. And if I fight back? Marcus asked. Gormath laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. You are one human. We are 5 of the most powerful species in the galaxy. You cannot fight. Marcus looked at each of them again. He saw the certainty in their eyes. The arrogance. They believed they were untouchable. They believed this was already over. I see, Marcus said softly. You really didn't do your research, did you? What research? Vrethkar demanded. About me. About why humanity sent me specifically as their ambassador. Before anyone could respond, Gormath moved. For something so large, he was terrifyingly fast. His massive paw swung at Marcus's head. Marcus didn't dodge. The blow connected, snapping his head to the side with a sound like a crack. He stumbled but didn't fall. Stay down, human, Gormath growled. This will hurt less if you don't resist. Marcus straightened up. He touched his face where the blow had landed. Then he smiled. The smile made Gormath hesitate. Your turn is over, Marcus said. His voice was still calm, still polite. Now it's mine. The Zynthian attacked next, energy crackling from its crystal body. The blast hit Marcus in the chest, burning through his suit. He staggered back, smoke rising from the wound, but he didn't fall. The other elder species joined in. Vrethakar's long arms stretched out, striking Marcus in the ribs. Another representative, a reptilian creature, lashed out with its tail. They beat him with fists and claws and energy blasts. Marcus fell to one knee. Then he started laughing. It was a soft laugh at first, barely audible over the sounds of the assault. But it grew louder. It echoed in the sealed chamber like something from a nightmare. Why won't you scream? Vrethkar demanded, striking him again. Why won't you beg? Marcus looked up. The injuries on his face were already fading. The burn on his chest was healing, skin knitting back together before their eyes. Because, Marcus said, pain is just information, and I've had 200 years to learn how to ignore it. Gormath grabbed Marcus by the throat and lifted him off the ground. What are you? Marcus's smile widened. You should have researched what humanity sent as their ambassador. His eyes changed. The brown color drained away, replaced by pure black. Not just the pupils, the entire eye from edge to edge became the color of deep space. Gormath dropped him in shock. Marcus stood up, brushing off his torn suit. The fabric was ruined, but beneath it his skin was unmarked. Every injury had healed. My name is Marcus Thorne, he said. I am not just a diplomat. I am what humanity calls a specter. I am a reaper. The temperature in the room dropped to freezing. Frost formed on the walls. What is a reaper? Vrethkar whispered. Marcus tilted his head, and for a moment something else looked out through his eyes. Something ancient and hungry and patient. Death, Marcus said simply. I am death wearing a human face, and you just made a very serious mistake. The lights in the chamber began to flicker. Shadows moved in the corners of the room, growing longer and darker. The elder species backed away, suddenly aware that they were no longer the predators in this situation. I came here to talk, Marcus continued, walking toward them slowly. I came here with peace, with hope. I wanted to believe that the galaxy could accept humanity without violence. But you couldn't help yourselves, could you? You saw something young and weak and you decided to crush it. We didn't know, the Zynthian said, its voice trembling. No, Marcus agreed. You didn't. That was humanity's test, you see. We wanted to know if the elder species could be trusted, if they would treat us with honor. You failed. Vrethkar tried to run for the door. It didn't open. Marcus had locked it from the inside. Don't worry, Marcus said. I'm not going to kill you. That would be too easy. Too quick. Instead, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to let you see what I see. He reached out with one hand. He didn't touch them, but they all screamed anyway. In their minds, they saw. They saw their own deaths not as a distant possibility, but as an absolute certainty. They felt what it was like to be prey instead of predators. They experienced the terror of the helpless, the horror of facing something they couldn't fight or reason with or escape from. They saw Marcus as he truly was. Not a diplomat. Not even really human anymore. They saw the entity that lived inside him, the thing from beyond space that humanity had found and learned to bond with. They saw all the people Marcus had killed over 2 centuries, all in service to keeping humanity safe. When Marcus released them, they collapsed to the ground, gasping and sobbing. "Tell the council what happened," Marcus said quietly. "Tell them you attacked a human diplomat and what you found. Let them decide if they want to meet humanity's real monsters." He walked to the door. It opened for him now. He paused and looked back at the 5 most powerful beings in the galaxy, reduced to trembling wrecks on the floor. "For what it's worth," Marcus said, "I'm sorry you made me do this. I really did want to be friends." Then he was gone, leaving them alone with their new understanding of what fear truly meant. Marcus walked through the corridors of Concordia Prime with steady steps. His suit was torn and burned, but there was not a mark on his skin. Other diplomats and aliens passing by stared at him. Some moved quickly out of his way. Others simply froze, sensing something wrong about the human in the damaged clothing. He returned to his quarters and locked the door. Only then did he allow himself to lean against the wall and close his eyes. "That could have gone better," he said to the empty room. The shadows in the corners stirred. A voice that was not quite sound spoke in his mind. "You gave them a choice. They chose violence. They're scared," Marcus replied. "Fear makes people do stupid things. They are old. They should be wiser." Marcus opened his eyes. They were still black all the way through. "Being old doesn't make you wise. Just look at me." He walked to the bathroom and looked at himself in the mirror. The entity inside him had manifested partially during the fight. Now it was reluctant to recede completely. "Come on," Marcus said to his reflection. "Let me have my face back." Slowly, the blackness faded from his eyes. Brown returned, making him look almost human again. Almost. Marcus thought back to the first time he had seen those black eyes. It had been 200 years ago, during humanity's earliest days of space exploration. He had been a soldier then, part of the crew on a colony ship heading to a distant world. They had picked up a strange signal from an uncharted planet. Against protocol, they had investigated. The planet was dead. Everything on it had died millions of years ago. But in a deep cave sealed away from the world, they had found something. An entity, a being of pure energy and consciousness that existed outside normal space and time. The scientists said it was impossible. The religious among the crew said it was divine. The soldiers just wanted to leave, but Marcus had been curious. He had touched the containment field. The entity had poured into him like ice water through his veins. He should have died. Instead, he had changed. The entity was not evil exactly. It did not hate or love or feel emotions the way humans did. It simply existed. It had existed for billions of years, watching stars be born and die, seeing civilizations rise and fall. It was patient beyond measure and utterly neutral, but it understood death. Death was its domain, its purpose. Every living thing that died, the entity felt it. Every ending was part of its vast awareness. When it bonded with Marcus, it gave him a gift. He could not age. He could heal from almost any injury. He could survive in vacuum and extreme temperatures. He became essentially immortal, but there was a cost. The longer he lived, the more he became like the entity. His emotions faded. His humanity slowly eroded. In 200 years, Marcus had watched everyone he loved grow old and die. He had fought in a dozen wars. He had killed when necessary and saved lives when possible. And through it all, he had felt himself becoming less human and more something else. The entity spoke again in his mind. "The others are coming." "I know," Marcus said. "Let them come." Within an hour, the station's alarms began to sound. Security teams rushed toward the restricted levels. Someone had found the elder species representatives. Marcus sat in his quarters and waited. He knew what would happen next. The door chimed. Marcus opened it to find a squad of security officers, their weapons drawn. Behind them stood several junior counselors, including the plenary representative. "Ambassador Thorne," the security chief said, "you need to come with us." "Of course," Marcus said calmly. "May I ask what this is about?" 5 counselors have been found in a sealed diplomatic chamber. They appear to be in shock. "They keep saying your name," Marcus nodded. "Then I suppose we should talk." They escorted him to a medical bay where the elder species representatives were being treated. The doctors said there was nothing physically wrong with them, but mentally they were broken. They sat or lay in their beds staring at nothing, occasionally whispering words that made no sense. When Marcus entered the room, all 5 of them reacted. They screamed or tried to hide or simply began crying. The security chief looked at Marcus with new eyes. "What did you do to them?" "They attacked me in that sealed chamber," Marcus said. "They brought me there to beat me, to make humanity afraid. What I did was defend myself and show them the truth about what I am." "And what are you?" the plenary counselor asked. Her voice shook slightly. Marcus looked at her. He liked the plenary. They were honest, hard-working people. They deserved the truth. "Have you ever heard of something called a specter?" he asked. The counselors shook their heads. "Humanity discovered something about 50 years after we achieved faster-than-light travel," Marcus began. "We found an entity on a dead world, a being that existed outside our normal understanding of reality. It was ancient, billions of years old, and it was alone." He walked slowly around the room, his hands behind his back like a teacher giving a lecture. "Some humans tried to study it. Others tried to weaponize it. But a few of us volunteered to bond with it, to let it share our bodies and minds. The scientists said it might kill us. It didn't. Instead, it changed us, and changed how?" the security chief asked. Marcus smiled sadly. "We stopped aging. We became incredibly hard to kill. We gained abilities that seemed impossible. But most importantly, we became connected to the concept of death itself. We can sense it. We can sometimes postpone it. And when necessary, we can deliver it with terrible efficiency." "You became weapons," the plenary counselor said. "We became guardians," Marcus corrected. "There are 100 specters in human space. We serve as soldiers, as protectors, as diplomats in dangerous situations. We do the jobs that normal humans cannot do because those jobs would kill them." He turned to face the counselors. "Directly. Humanity sent me as their ambassador, knowing that the elder species might try something like this. It was a test. If you welcomed us with honor, I would have been nothing but a diplomat. But if you tried to harm us, you would discover what humanity has become, what we are willing to do to protect ourselves." "You threatened the council," the security chief said. "No," Marcus replied. "I defended myself against an illegal assault. The elder species tried to beat me in a sealed room where no one would know. I simply showed them that humanity is not as helpless as they thought." The plenary counselor looked at the broken representatives in their beds. "What did you show them?" "Their deaths," Marcus said quietly. "Not threats. Not possibilities. I let them see the moment when they will die, however and whenever it happens. The entity inside me can see these things. I shared that vision with them. They experienced what it feels like to be mortal, to be vulnerable, to face the absolute certainty of their own ending." The room was silent. "That's cruel," the security chief finally said. "Yes," Marcus agreed. "It is. But it's less cruel than what they planned to do to me and through me to all of humanity. They wanted to make us afraid, to make us small. I showed them that we are neither." The plenary counselor stepped forward. "The council will need to hear about this." "All of it, I know," Marcus said. "I'm prepared to tell them everything. Let the galaxy decide if they want to stand with humanity or against us. Either way, we will survive. We always do." As they led him toward the Grand Council chamber, Marcus felt the entity stir inside him. It was curious about what would happen next. So was Marcus. He had revealed humanity's greatest secret. There was no going back now. The galaxy would know about the specters. They would know that humanity had found a way to cheat death itself. Some would be terrified. Some would be angry. Some might even be impressed. But none of them would ever underestimate humanity again. Marcus smiled as he walked. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had lived too long and seen too much. The entity whispered in his mind, asking if he regretted what he had done. "No," Marcus said aloud, not caring that the guards could hear him. "I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it. Sometimes the only way to achieve peace is to show everyone what war would cost them." The doors to the Grand Council chamber opened before him. Every seat was filled. Every species in the galaxy had representatives present. They had all heard rumors. Now they would hear the truth. Marcus walked to the center platform and waited for the questions to begin. The Grand Council chamber had never been so quiet. Thousands of representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in absolute silence, staring at the human on the center platform. News feeds broadcast the session across the entire galaxy. Trillions of beings watched and waited. Marcus stood alone in the light. His torn suit had been replaced with a fresh one. But everyone knew what lay beneath the civilized exterior now. The secret was out. The temporary council speaker, a neutral arbiter from a medium-sized species called the Talgron, spoke first. Ambassador Thorn, you have been accused of assaulting 5 senior members of this council. How do you respond? Not guilty, Marcus said clearly. I was the one who was assaulted. I simply defended myself. A roar of voices erupted from the elder species sections. Accusations flew. How dare he make such claims? He was lying. He was dangerous. He should be executed immediately. The speaker called for order. It took several minutes before the chamber quieted down. The elder species representatives were found in a state of severe psychological trauma, the speaker continued. Medical scans show no physical injuries, but their minds have been damaged. They claim you did this to them. I showed them a truth they were not prepared to face, Marcus replied. They brought me to a sealed room under false pretenses. 5 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy against 1 human. They beat me. They tried to break me. When that failed, I defended myself in the only way I could. By attacking their minds? The speaker asked. By showing them what I am. By making them understand that humanity is not defenseless. The plenary councilor stood. I request permission to speak. The speaker nodded. Ambassador Thorn has told me about the specters, she began. I believe the council needs to hear the full story before we pass judgment. Agreed, the speaker said. Ambassador Thorn, please explain to this council what a specter is. Marcus took a deep breath. This was the moment. There was no going back from what he was about to say. 50 years into our exploration of deep space, humanity discovered an ancient entity on a dead world. We don't know where it came from or why it was there. But we learned that it could bond with human consciousness. The bonding process creates what we call specters. He let that sink in before continuing. Specters don't age. We heal from injuries that would kill normal humans. We can survive in extreme environments. We are connected to the fundamental concept of death in the universe. We can sense it, understand it, and in some cases manipulate it. The chamber exploded in noise again. Fear, anger, curiosity, and excitement all mixed together in a storm of voices. How many of these specters exist? The speaker shouted over the din. 100, Marcus answered. We are spread throughout human space, serving as protectors, soldiers, and sometimes diplomats. Why did humanity hide this from the galaxy? Demanded a representative from one of the elder species who had not been involved in the attack. Would you have reacted well if we had announced it? Marcus asked. Would you have welcomed us with open arms, knowing we had beings who could not die and who were connected to death itself? Or would you have declared war on us immediately? The representative had no answer. We hid it because we wanted peace, Marcus continued. We wanted to join the galactic community as friends and equals. But we also wanted to protect ourselves. The specters are our insurance policy. They ensure that no one can wipe out humanity without paying a terrible price. A young counselor from a species called the Nemi stood up. But you said you were sent here specifically as a test. That means humanity expected the elder species to attack you. Marcus nodded. We hoped they wouldn't. But we prepared for the possibility. The elder species have a long history of crushing younger species who might challenge their authority. We wanted to know if they would try the same with us. And we did, came a weak voice. Everyone turned. One of the elder species representatives had been brought into the chamber. It was not Vrethkar, but a Kelthari elder named Saresh. She looked pale and shaken. Speak, the speaker said gently. He's telling the truth, Saresh said. We brought him to a sealed chamber. We told him humanity would never be accepted as equals. We beat him. We used our strength against one unarmed diplomat because we thought we could break him, break his species' spirit. She looked at Marcus with haunted eyes. But he didn't break. He healed. And then he showed us what he really was. He showed us our deaths, not as threats but as certainties. We saw the exact moment we will die, felt what it will be like. We experienced the terror of being completely helpless, the way we wanted him to feel. The chamber was silent again. He could have killed us, Suresh continued. We were in a sealed room. No one would have known. But he let us live. He let us go so we could tell everyone what happened. That's the difference between us and them. We attacked to dominate. He defended to teach. The elder species section erupted in arguments. Some demanded Marcus be punished anyway. Others said Saresh was speaking out of trauma. A few sat in silence thinking. The younger species had a different reaction. They leaned forward in their seats, excited and curious. The Torgash representative stood. If I may speak, the humans helped my world recover from a plague 10 years ago. They asked for nothing in return. If they wanted to conquer or control us, they could have done so then. Instead, they gave us medicine and knowledge and left. The specters are frightening, yes, but humanity's actions speak louder than their capabilities. Other young species agreed. Story after story came out. Humanity helping with disasters, sharing technology, mediating conflicts. Always friendly, always reasonable. They don't act like conquerors, the plenary counselor said. They act like people trying to find their place in a vast and sometimes hostile galaxy. Can we blame them for preparing to defend themselves? The debate went on for hours. Marcus stood on the platform the entire time, answering questions when asked, remaining silent when not. He was tired, 200 years tired, but he could not show weakness now. Finally, the speaker called for a preliminary vote. Not on membership, that would come later, but on the question of whether Marcus should be punished for defending himself. The vote was split almost perfectly along generational lines. The elder species voted to punish him. The younger species voted to excuse him. The middle-aged species were divided. This council is deadlocked, the speaker announced. We will recess for one standard day while delegations consult with their homeworlds. Ambassador Thorne, you are confined to your quarters until we reconvene. Marcus bowed slightly and left the platform. As he walked through the corridors, he noticed something had changed. The aliens no longer stared at him with simple curiosity or disdain. Now there was fear in their eyes, but also respect. Some gave him a wide berth. Others nodded as he passed. A few even smiled, though those were mostly from the younger species. Back in his quarters, Marcus collapsed onto his bed. The entity inside him stirred, concerned. I'm fine, Marcus said. Just tired. You revealed our existence. The consequences will be vast, I know, but it was necessary. Humanity can't hide forever. Better to reveal ourselves on our own terms than to have the secret discovered. What if they vote against you? Marcus smiled. Then they vote against me. It won't change what I am or what humanity is. We'll deal with whatever comes. He closed his eyes, thinking about Earth. He had not seen his homeworld in 50 years. He wondered if it still looked the same, if the cities he remembered were still standing, if anyone he had known was still alive. Probably not. Everyone from his original life was long dead. He was a relic from another era, a ghost wearing flesh. The entity seemed to sense his sadness. You sacrificed much for your species. All soldiers do, Marcus replied. I just sacrificed for longer than most. He drifted into something like sleep, though specters didn't truly need rest. As he lay there, he felt the entity's presence in his mind, vast and ancient and patient, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something like companionship. He was not alone. He would never be alone again, not until the day the entity finally consumed the last of his humanity. But that day was not today. Today, he was still Marcus Thorne, ambassador of Earth, defender of humanity, and tomorrow the galaxy would decide what that meant. Marcus was reviewing diplomatic reports when the alarms started screaming. Not the normal station alarms. These were different, louder, more urgent. The kind of sound that meant something had gone catastrophically wrong. His datapad lit up with emergency broadcasts in a dozen languages. All personnel to emergency stations. Unknown hostile forces detected at the edge of the system. This is not a drill. Marcus stood and moved to his window. In the distance, he could see ships scrambling from the station's docking bays. Defense platforms were powering up, their weapons glowing with deadly light. The entity inside him suddenly became alert. It was agitated in a way Marcus had never felt before. Something is coming, something that hungers. What kind of something? Marcus asked aloud. Death, but not natural death, a death that should not exist. Before Marcus could process that, his door chimed. He opened it to find the plenary counselor standing there with 2 guards. The speaker requests your presence in the command center, she said. Her feathers were ruffled with stress. Please, we need your help. Marcus followed them through corridors filled with running personnel. Everyone was moving with purpose, preparing for whatever was coming. When they reached the command center, he found it packed with military officers and counselors. On the main view screen, space itself seemed to be tearing open. Ships poured through the rupture. They were organic-looking things, All curves and dark flesh instead of metal and clean lines. They moved in perfect coordination like a school of fish. Or a swarm of insects, what are those? Someone whispered. An old Kelthari admiral stepped forward. Devourers. I thought they were a myth. Explain, the speaker demanded. Ancient texts mention them, the admiral said. A species from beyond our galaxy. They consume all life they encounter, strip worlds bare, and move on. They're a hive mind, billions of individuals acting as one. Some records say they've destroyed entire galaxies. How do we fight them? Asked a military commander. The records don't say. Every civilization that encountered them was destroyed. The Devourer fleet was massive. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They moved toward Concordia Prime with terrible purpose. The station's defense fleet moved to intercept. Marcus watched as the first engagement began. The Council's ships opened fire with energy weapons and missiles. Some Devourer ships died, burning in the void. But for every one destroyed, 3 more took its place. And when they got close enough, they latched onto the Council ships like parasites and began tearing them apart. They're eating the ships, someone said in horror. They're literally consuming the metal and the crews. The defense was failing. Marcus could see it in the faces around him. They were going to lose. How long until they reached the station? The speaker asked. 20 minutes, an officer replied. Maybe less. Begin evacuation. Get as many people off the station as possible. Marcus looked at the view screen. Thousands of Devourer ships. Millions, maybe billions of individual creatures. All of them hungry. All of them moving toward this station where thousands of beings from hundreds of species were gathered. The entity inside him stirred again. We can fight them. I'm one person, Marcus said quietly. Even I can't fight an entire fleet. You are not one person. You are death. And death can be used to fight that which should not live. Marcus understood. The entity wanted to manifest fully, not just show itself through his eyes or give him healing. It wanted to come through completely, to use Marcus as a doorway into this reality. It would probably kill him, or at least burn away whatever humanity he had left. Marcus looked around the command center. He saw the plenary counselor who had shown kindness to humans. He saw young officers barely out of training, trying desperately to save their station. He saw representatives from 100 species, all of them terrified. He thought about Earth, about humanity waiting to hear if they would be accepted into the galactic community. About all the people who would die if the Devourers won here and moved on to the next system, and the next until they reached human space. All right, Marcus said. Let's do it, Ambassador. The speaker said. What are you? Marcus walked toward the airlock. Ambassador Thorne, what are you doing? The plenary counselor called after him. Buying you time, Marcus replied. Evacuate as many people as you can. I'll hold them off, and you can't go out there. There's no ship prepared for you. Marcus smiled. I don't need a ship. He entered the airlock and sealed it behind him. Through the window he could see the shocked faces of everyone in the command center. They were shouting at him, trying to stop him, but Marcus had made his decision. He opened the outer door and stepped into space. There was a moment of cold, a moment where his body tried to scream. Then the entity surged through him like a tidal wave. His body changed. Shadows and light mixed around him until he was no longer a human floating in vacuum. He became something else, something vast and terrible and beautiful. From the command center, they watched in awe as Marcus transformed. He grew larger, his form shifting between solid and ethereal. His eyes were black holes pulling in light. His hands became claws of pure entropy. He looked like a god from ancient mythology, like death itself given form. And then he moved. Marcus shot toward the Devourer fleet faster than any ship. When he reached the first vessels, he simply touched them. Where his hands made contact, the ships aged 1,000,000 years in seconds. They crumbled to dust and drifted away. The Devourers tried to swarm him. Thousands of them, their hunger overriding any sense of self-preservation. But Marcus moved through them like a scythe through wheat. Everything he touched died, not violently but completely. Their time simply ended. In the command center, alarms began going off. We're detecting massive energy signatures approaching the system. Multiple faster-than-light transitions detected. More Devourers? The speaker asked in despair. No, the sensor officer said, confused. The signatures are human. Ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Human ships, but different from the normal explorers and traders. These were sleek and dark, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change. "This is Captain Chen of the Spectre Corps," a voice came over the communications. "We received Ambassador Thorne's distress signal. We're here to assist." From the human ships, more figures emerged into space without suits or shields. 99 specters, each bonded with a fragment of the same ancient entity that lived in Marcus. They joined him in the void. Together, they became a wall of death between the Devourers and Concordia Prime. They moved in perfect coordination, each specter destroying hundreds of enemy ships. The void filled with the dust of consumed Devourers. The hive mind tried to adapt. It sent more ships, changed tactics, attempted to overwhelm through sheer numbers. But the specters were infinite patience given form. They had existed as part of the entity for billions of years. A few million Devourers were nothing. The battle lasted for hours. Inside the station, evacuation ships launched one after another, carrying thousands to safety. The specters held the line, never tiring, never faltering. Finally, the Devourer fleet broke. Whatever intelligence controlled them decided this prey was too costly. They retreated back through the rupture in space and disappeared. The specters remained on guard for another hour, making sure the threat was truly gone. Then one by one they began to return to their human forms. They floated back to their ships, exhausted but victorious. Marcus was the last to change back. When he did, he barely looked human anymore. His form was translucent, flickering between solid and shadow. He drifted toward the station, no longer able to propel himself. The plenary counselor ordered him brought aboard immediately. They found him in the recovery bay, lying on a bed and staring at the ceiling. His eyes were still black, but now there were stars in them. "Ambassador," she said softly. "You saved us, did I?" Marcus asked. His voice sounded far away. "I'm not sure I'm even here anymore." "What do you mean?" "The entity," Marcus said. "It took almost everything to manifest like that. I'm more it than me now. In a few days, maybe weeks, Marcus Thorne will be gone completely. Just the entity wearing his memories." The counselor took his hand. It was cold as ice. "Then we'll remember you, all of us. The human who stood between the galaxy and destruction." The speaker and other counselors came to visit, even some of the elder species who had opposed humanity. They looked at Marcus with new understanding. "The vote," Marcus said weakly. "Did they vote?" "Unanimous," the speaker replied. "Humanity has been granted full council membership, and the Spectre Corps has been offered positions as defenders of the entire galaxy, if they choose to accept." Marcus smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. "We accept. That's what we were made for, after all. To protect." Over the next few days, Marcus deteriorated. His physical form became less stable. Sometimes he was solid, sometimes he was pure shadow. The other specters visited him, understanding what was happening. They had all walked this path. They knew where it led. On the 5th day after the battle, Marcus called for the plenary counselor one last time. "I need to tell you something," he said, "about why I smiled that day in the sealed chamber when they were beating me." "Why?" she asked. "Because I finally had proof. Proof that even after 200 years, even after becoming this thing, I still cared enough to feel anger. I still cared about humanity enough to want to protect it.